We're just leaving the airport in the traditional way and starting to do a bit of a recording even from here. The gentleman's very kindly just put the radio down without even being asked. It's very good of him. Please see somebody with the right amount of good preparation. So there we see the nice Sierra in the background from the airport, and immediately onto a nice motorway, which from what I remember from the past takes you pretty much into the centre in a nice straight line. If I remember rightly, coming in from the north, I'm not sure whether it's the northwest or the southwest, but it's certainly from the western side. So the sea would be down there somewhere. Perhaps more back there. I get the impression that the straight line hasn't actually started yet. Maybe it starts probably from about the here on. Because now we're in a curve here, and that would make sense as to where the mountains and the sea are. So first you have to get back a bit from it. So landing on Barcelona pretty much is straight from over the sea into the airport. Otherwise you'd have to descend quite sharply coming over the mountains from the other side. So I think they always come in on that side. Whether they, obviously when you take off you usually ascend sharply anyway, so they probably do that on the mountain side. That would be sensible. So here from the ground level is a bit of that industrial area. If I can get the height of this right. I can't get the height of it right exactly with the boundaries that are going past, but I just like to remember this, and then later on if I ever come here by car I'll already be able to... Oh, Hot Night Palace. You in Barcelona. I don't think hot nights are necessarily anything all that new here, but Grupo Tecnocasa. I noticed in the airport that the main language, the one at the beginning, was genuinely Catalan, and then there was English in smaller letters in the middle, and at the bottom, but in similarly sized letters in a different colour, was Spanish. I mean Castillian Spanish, because also Catalan, as I mentioned earlier, is a form of Spanish. Just like we talk about Cantonese and Mandarin, they're both Chinese. Sometimes people use the term Chinese as a generic term, sometimes they're thinking about Mandarin when they say Chinese, and similarly when people say Spanish, sometimes they're thinking about Castillian Spanish, which of course is also the base for the world Spanish, which is spoken all over Latin America and other places. So whereas Catalan is spoken just inside Catalonia, of which Barcelona is the capital. And a very nice place it is too, and a very industrial place, I would say. Lots of production. If you know Seat cars, they're all made in Catalonia, and the owner is a proud Catalonian. He wouldn't call himself just a general Spanish person. He would be very proud to be from this particular area. And there are even people in Catalonia that would go so far as to say they preferred to be independent. Certainly when we come to other parts of Spain, like the Basque country, they certainly there have been even groups that have gone about that in a terrorist way too. There isn't any, as far as I'm aware, really terrorist connection as far as Catalonia's independence is concerned. Rather like Scotland, they would prefer to go about it democratically, and rather like Scotland, I don't think it would ever happen, because apart from anything else, what would you what would you gain in any event in the European Union? We're all part of the same family one way or another anyway, so it's almost academic whether you become an independent country or not. You're not really a sovereign country anyway in the European Union. Look at those beautiful rushes there. Fantastic. That was really pretty. So therefore probably it will be the way that it is without any changes in both Catalonia and Scotland, I would suggest. But it's interesting because here we have other words for a lot of things, and even if you learn your Castilian Spanish, it doesn't mean to say you're going to understand an awful lot. Some things are quite clear. Equipajes is in Spanish, and then they have something with a T in it followed by a G. I don't know if that's something like equipages or something like that, for baggage, for the baggage collection area. That's quite clear to understand. How you would actually pronounce it may not be quite so clear, but certainly you can understand it. Then there's other things where the word is completely different. Well, it's good, isn't it, to have another language, but personally, knowing that I can only learn a certain number probably in the time available to me, I'm not in any hurry to learn this one, because I'd rather not make a completely half-hearted attempt at it. Rather do it, if I did a language, then I'd do it properly to the extent that I can. And that takes time, you know, so you don't have time for everything. So hopefully nobody who's a Catalonian who's listening to my films will take exception to me sticking to Castillian. It's basically an expression of the fact that one doesn't have time to do everything, not because the language wouldn't be worth studying. Certainly if I had enough time, I'd study a lot of languages, but you have to make a selection, and of course if you study too many similar languages, you get them muddled up, and so unless you're really spending a lot of time with both of them, like in the case of I was with Czech and Polish and Russian, or still am with between Polish and Russian. Other than that, you have to be particularly selective within families, and to do Castilian and Catalonian when I'm not having much chance to practice either would be quite detrimental, I think, to the chance of success in either. So which do you choose? I mean, you can choose something which is no doubt interesting and historic and everything, and certainly would make you a lot of friends in this particular city. Or you can pick another one which is spoken over, you know, large swathes of the Earth's surface. And if you're in business, if you're doing business travel, then it's a little bit like no contest. So I didn't do any Catalonian at all. And those who do, well, excellent. So we're now in a queue. Maybe it's not worth filming a queue.